Hello and welcome today. As our guest, we have Kia Elfström. She is a transactional analysis counselor since more than 10 years, almost 15 years, and she's worked in the spiritual field for about 20 years. She has a great knowledge, deep understanding of trauma healing, narcissism, domestic violence, both as a victim herself, working with victims and also with perpetrators. So she has a unique perspective. Also, she's working with a lot of different modalities in trauma healing. So I really look forward to this conversation. Welcome, Kia.
Thank you. Thank you so much for inviting me to your pod.
Yes, great to have you. What is the difference between having narcissistic traits and the real disorder?
Yeah, it's exactly that the traits are narcissistic, but when you have a severe narcissism and you are going into more like pathological narcissism, then we're talking about the disorder, the personality disorder. And you have to see all these patterns in every aspect in life, and also you need to suffer yourself from these traits. So it's not just that other people think that you're narcissistic, but you have to have this suffering.
Yeah, that it becomes
Yeah.
problematic in your everyday
Yeah,
life. That is something that you can't control and it affects your life in many
exactly.
areas.
You can have like a subclinical narcissism. It's not a pathological narcissist, but you're sort of in the dark triad where you have a lot of traits of both maybe narcissism, Machiavellism, psychopath, and that is bad as well. But you're not that severe. It's not that pathological, so you can't say that this person is a narcissist or have an antisocial personality disorder, but still really, really toxic.
And even within the disorder, there is also a spectrum, as with everything. It's like autism is on a spectrum. Narcissism is a huge spectrum as well. So, and we often talk about that it's divided into two main parts: the overt and the covert. What would you say are the main differences?
Well, the main differences is that the overt narcissist has this grandiosity and the arrogance and the lack of empathy is quite obvious. But the covert narcissist, it's like everything is going on under the surface. Nothing. I used to compare these two with a movie. So if you think of the overt narcissist as a Bollywood movie, very much colors, there's music, there's passion, intense, the drama, and the covert narcissist is more like a black and white.
Muted, what do you call it, without sound?
These kind of movies. No colors, everything is muted, everything is going on under the surface, but there's a lot of tension and you can't really figure out what is going on because it's so covert. So that if you compare these two kind of movies, then there you have it.
That was a good explanation. I like that.
Yeah. So the covert narcissist is more like this victimhood. They have suffered more. They have more pain. They have been hurted more. They have much more traumas. Everything is more than average.
More injustices, all of that, They feel that they just haven't been given the right chance and people haven't seen how great they actually are. Because inside they still feel, I guess, superior in some way, but they just hasn't had the chance, or people stepped on them or treated them badly, or they haven't been discovered, or
Exactly.
whatever else.
And the main the main how do you say, the main quote, I'm so misunderstood. Nobody really understands me. That is like a mantra.
But still, these people have these dreams of grandeur, that they feel that they are better. Do you think so?
Yeah, they absolutely they do. The grandiosity is more about their intellect because they're not so outgoing. So they need to have more more qualities like intellect. So it's more inverted, to be famous, to be rich, to be acknowledged worldwide. It's for the covert narcissist, that's more about being unconditionally loved by their partner, by their intimate partner. Not so much about, you know, getting rich, being famous, because they don't like to. They don't like to.
But what about recognition? Even though they might not want to be famous, but the whole part of being recognized for being really clever, intelligent, academic in their field. There are many similarities, though. You know, the manipulation, the lies, the gaslighting.
The arrogance.
There's some areas where there would be a bit of a difference is in an intimate relationship in the initial phase. The love bombing phase, how would that differ, you feel, from more of an overt and a covert?
I mean, I think it's more about the personality style that this person has, rather than if it's a covert or is it an overt narcissist. But the personal style is more to create like a match made in heaven.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
From my point of view, the covert narcissists, they are more manipulative. So they manipulate in a more subtle way, and they're mapping their potential suppliers, victims,
suppliers.
so that they are able to create a match made in heaven. Because they don't have this grandiosity. They don't brag about themselves. They don't, they don't. They're not necessarily that talkative. So they need to use other techniques to suck in their suppliers, and mostly it's by intellect and that the supplier feeling that they are pity them, they feel sorry for them, like they're activating their empathy, sympathy.
Yes. So I guess it's this. I would say it's the same for both the overt and the covert, as in they will use the dreams and the longings of the potential supplier, and mirror that, so that they will feel that this is it. This is the perfect match, the perfect person. Sometimes people, I think, can get a little bit fooled with these early warning signs, the early red flags that they talk about in dating. And one of them is the love bombing of being super romantic and these grand gestures. But that's more of the grandiose style. So it doesn't mean that just because you haven't been love bombed that it cannot be a narcissist, because the covert one does it in a different way. So what are some warning signs in early dating that you should look out for, do you think? That equals for both types, both main categories of narcissists.
Like a big red flag is someone who's not willing to take accountability for their actions. You know, that when they blame shift and project the blame onto other persons. So that is sort of like the main characteristic trait for a narcissist, that they never take responsible for their actions. It's always someone else's fault, or always something else has made them do this, or like it was a traffic jam, so that's why I wasn't on time. They never take accountability. And also that they are really, really interested in your personal history, and also, you know, they are really, really interested in you. But it's like they don't reflect on the answers they get. So it's like they are just interviewing you. They're not interested.
Scanning for things to
Yeah,
use.
exactly. So when they get the answers, it's like they don't reflect on it. They don't react on the answers. They're not. It's like they just put it in the back of their mind and say, okay, next question. It's like a rehearsal, förhör.
Yeah. Well, I guess like scanning for things that they eventually can use against you, if need to be, and also how they can get more maybe opportunities or what advantages they can get from being with you. So it always is sussing out how they can get narcissistic supply or how they can control you and
Shame.
use this information, shame you in some way to get back to you.
So if you have
So yes.
if you have a person that's not taking accountability, they're asking a lot of questions about you, want to know like intimate things about you quite early on in the relationship, maybe on the first or second or third date already, and they don't reflect on the answers. They do not mentalize during the answers that you're giving them. That is like a big, for me, that is a big red flag. And also, if you confront them or putting out your boundaries, like keeping your boundaries,
Yes.
and how does this person
Yes.
react on this?
I would probably say that they're very sensitive to any form of criticism or being questioned, or if you point out some type of behavior that is not okay, they will get unproportionately, it could be angry or insulting or just like walk away or become quiet or just something that seems a bit off. That's also a good sign, as in a good warning sign to look out for.
And I actually spoke to a colleague like a couple of days ago, and she said, like, they cannot making jokes about themselves because they are the best. They are very serious. Everybody around them is supposed to take them seriously, or like they are more special than everybody else. So if someone is making a joke about them, it's like they don't get it.
Yeah, but on the other hand, the overt, grandiose narcissists, they can be very humorous and joke about themselves, but they control the narrative, of course. So that's where they always look good. So yes, so that's quite different.
Covert narcissists, they're not charming.
No.
It's more like you feel sorry for them, but they're
like the martyrs.
So you don't find them attractive.
Okay. So, what would you say are the worst things about falling for a narcissist, being in a relationship with one, or even having a parent, a sibling, a really close friend, your boss, of being in a close relationship with a narcissist over time? What would be the hardest, most difficult things? Why is it such a big thing? Why do we talk about this so much? Why is it such a big deal? Why isn't it just like an unhealthy relationship that there's so many of them around? What makes this different?
Because when you have a relationship, a close, intimate relationship with a narcissist, you don't only lose a beloved one, or maybe you lose money, but you lose everything. You lose faith in humanity. You lose hope for the future. You're losing your self-worth. your self-esteem. You're losing like your physical and mental and emotional health. It's like they rip out everything in you that is you. That is why it's so devastating. And I know Sam Vakning, he talk about this narcissistic abuse. It's more specific because it's so many areas. It is in all areas in life. It's like severe damage that they are creating in us. And I don't think I have had met one single victim from a narcissistic relationship that hasn't been traumatized. It's like a 100% how to be traumatized.
Yes. Every single part of your life they will attack. It's not just, one area. It's not just someone that is a bit traumatized with an alcohol problem and they yell at you and that's it. It's like, no, they will attack everything, every aspect of your life and erode your sense of self, as you said, your self-esteem, question your sanity, even your memories, your perception, and they isolate you. And there are just so many things that are devastating. And of course, when there are children involved as well, the effect on the children is horrific as well. Growing up with a parent like that, it will affect them for the rest of their life unless they do some serious trauma healing work. It becomes more and more common because the society that we live in today, it's like a perfect grow ground for these type of abusers,
And it's
and it's
encouraged
not really
people.
set up to help victims.
It's sort of like the media and um, all the things going on in the social media, like internet platforms. It's like it's encouraged the narcissistic traits in people. So everybody have narcissistic traits, but it's like they want us to use. It's like we are encouraged to use these traits, and everything is about me,
Yes.
myself, and I. Look at me
Yeah.
all the time. And when we have all the social interactions on the internet, we lose the one-to-one relational training that we get.
That fine tuning of really feeling each
Yeah,
other and
yeah,
empathizing.
exactly. So we doesn't train ourselves to be in interaction with other humans, and that is also it decrease our capacity to be empathic, and the loss of empathy is one of the core issues in narcissistic personality disorder. They have a lack of empathy. So it's like
Lack of empathy and also that inability to feel real love. It's it's like an ego thing about what can this person or this situation bring to me? What can I get out of it? It's never about real
no.
love. Even the children. But what are your experiences with this?
Yes.
How do you see narcissists as parents?
I mean, they objectify even their children's. So as long as the children are acting the way they want them, as long as they can control their children, they are absolutely able to love their children because they are mirroring them as a perfect parent. But as soon as the children is starting to get their own will and they're starting to like provoking their parents or want to do things in their own way, then it's more and more hard for the narcissistic parents to love their children. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and they demand their children to be like their emotional regulator. And when the children got their own interests and their own friends and a life outside the family system, the parent feel quite abandoned.
Yeah.
So because they need their children to regulate their emotions, and they need their children to make them look good.
But would you actually call that love, though, when it only depends on how much the child can mirror back in positive ways to the parent and what they can bring to the table and what they can give them, these like mini-me? Isn't that more of like a possession or
It's objectifying.
Yes.
Yeah.
But I guess it's the closest that they come to love.
Yeah, exactly.
And I guess that would be the same in the early period of a relationship as well. They probably think that they feel love when that person that they've met, that they put up on this pedestal, idolizing sort of that person because it gets to be this extension of their good qualities and self, and they feel better. But as soon as that person cannot keep that unrealistic standard, or that they start to see things in the narcissist, point them out, when that narcissistic supply and that perfect image sort of crumbles a bit, that's when they go in and attack and devaluate and all the other things that they do. But I think initially they probably think that they're in love.
Oh yes, they do. Every time they have met their soulmate, every time they have reached nirvana, coming home, felt like they're it's every time.
Meant to be, written in the stars. All of
And
that.
they have this, they really true believe that this time I'm gonna make it work out. This time, my partner, this new partner is not gonna provoke me, or is not gonna see through my grandiosity and see this inner emptiness, this fragile ego that I bear somewhere deep down inside. So this time it will work. So, and that's why they quite often say, I'm not gonna hurt you. I'm gonna show you that you can trust me. I'm gonna show you that you can trust men again or women again. It's like they already know what is going to happen. So they have to sort of convince their new partner that it's not, I'm not going to hurt you because I am not capable of love you, but I'm not going to hurt you because all my intention are unconscious, and therefore you can't blame me because I cannot take responsible for things that I don't know about. So that is the loop that is going on.
You even have quite a few narcissists that even after they might even hit their partner, the victim, that they will say to them afterwards, I mean, I would never hurt you. And in somehow they come up with all sorts of excuses for themselves. They never see that they are the problem. You were just collateral damage. You made them do that. And they feel it's like that was unnecessary, but that you had to behave in that way, say that thing, and I had to do this. So it wasn't really my fault. I would never hurt you. That was never my intention. I never wanted to do it, but you made me do it. So they have this complete set of reasoning that is very, very different. Once you realize what's going on, and either you have the courage to leave, or you're being discarded by a narcissist, or if you have maybe parents and you realize this doesn't work, I need to just distance myself and maybe cut contact for a while or forever, or whatever it is, you quit your job or you let go of this best friend that you've been together with for years. Then what are you supposed to do to increase your chances of healing, of recovery? Because as we know, time itself will not just heal those wounds. It can actually get more infected with time and can sort of cement themselves in you. So what What are some of the therapies, techniques, modules that you have noticed through the years that work really well?
I think that the main thing that you have to realize coming out from this kind of relationship is that you are trauma bonded to this person, and it doesn't matter if it is a friend, a boss, a sibling, a fiance. You need to deconstruct these trauma bonds and to see each and every bond, to see how strong, how thick is this specific bond with this person, and sort of.
Could you please clarify a bit about the trauma bonds? Because not all people know what it is. Some people think it's just like Stockholm syndrome, but no.
There are 3 different type of bonds. It's emotional bonds, like fear, love, hate, hope, compassion, guilt, shame. These are the emotional bonds. And then you have these composed bonds.
Composed?
And that is the dopamine addiction goes under the composed bonds.
Mm-hmm.
The need to sort of try to understand the relationship and to try to get a meaning of why did my partner, why did my boss, why did my sister, why did my mother do this to me? So we try to understand the relationship. And also the normalization process and the
internalization.
Internalization process is a part of the composed bonds. And then we have these practical bonds, like if you are married, do you have a mutual friends? Do you have like accounts together? Or maybe you run a business together, or like all these children, house, car, boat, those kind of things. So there are 3 different kind of bonds.
And so, for instance, where would you put the sexual bond, for instance? Where would that go?
I think from my perspective is under the composed bonds, because it's both emotional and in this specific, it's also physical, and it's not that much talked about, the sexual bonds.
From what I have seen and talked with a lot of people about, especially women, that it tends to be either the best sex that they've ever had and they become hooked on that, and it becomes very strong and intense and fulfilling, and it's like passionate and maybe new things, and they get like wow. Or it is very devaluating, it can be rape, even it can be terrible, or it can be like a conscious withholding of sex, when like a punishment as well. But often I think it's a combination of both, that just like the other types of abuse, they're cyclical, that this is what happens as well with the sex, and that creates even stronger dopamine effect, that whole cycle of the abuse and the periods of the good times, and so that becomes an addiction.
It's like they are performing in bed. It's not like they are mixing. They think that they get intimacy, but they are getting intensity.
You say a part of the trauma bonding is trying to understand what happened, but I think that's also a first sort of step in the healing process, understand what you've actually been through. So even though it's a part of a trauma bond, it's also important to understand. I guess the difference is that desperately trying to get closure and that is sort of a trauma bond. But to zoom out and look at the whole situation, what have I been through? What are the characteristics of narcissists? What are these abuse cycles? Just to zoom out and get an idea of it. And then it's easier to get into healing. It's like you need to assess the problem before you can do something about it. But I guess what you mean, the trauma bonding part, is that when you're often still in the relationship, I guess, or even just out of it, and you try to get that closure. You try to, it's like, no, but I need to understand his point of view. Why is it like that? Or maybe I could have done something different. Or is that what you mean? So after you realize that you're trauma bonded, and in which areas, and you work on dissolving, lessening these bonds, what else?
You need
Can you do?
to regulate your nervous system because it's totally
Yes.
unbalanced. It's not about it's not just about the dopamine. It's also about the serotonin, the oxytocin, the adrenaline, the cortisol, the noradrenaline. All these kind of it's like a cocktail. It's like the
Yeah.
devil's cocktail most of the time, like all these stress hormones, and you need to find ways to be able to regulate yourself, like working on the vagus nerve, like the polyvagal theory is quite interesting to look at. So you need to
Yes, I totally agree.
yeah, so you need to find things to regulate your nervous system with. There's different herbs who can help you with these kind of things, like passion flower, skullcap, milk oats, ashwagandha, things that activate your own GABA system. But you also need to find ways to decrease the stress in your body, like soothing techniques.
Like meditation, yoga, tai chi, mindfulness, but also body scanning, massage techniques, acupuncture. There are a lot of things that you can do, and also the fascia
Yes.
release,
Yes.
fascia
Yeah.
stretching, because I think a lot of people, they don't realize that trauma is stored in so many parts of our of our being. It is not just in our conscious mind. So, even though talk therapy is great, it is only one part of the whole process, and we are complex beings with so many different layers, and and in our bodies so much trauma is stored there, as you say, in our nervous systems, in our physical bodies, in our fascia, and so many that come out of a relationship with a narcissist. They dissociate as well. They're in that freeze state, and they're not even in contact with their body, so they don't even realize how unbalanced and traumatized they actually are, because they don't feel it anymore.
Yeah. So working with, for example, TRE, trauma release exercise, to shiver out the stress in the body.
Yeah.
Doing fascia work, of course, and other like working through the body is letting the body release the stress without putting a label on what causes this specific stress.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
letting the body do the work.
A lot of people keep asking, but do I need to relive all of my traumas again, talk about and think about them, remember them or relive them again? No, you don't. And that can even be re-traumatizing. So, no, you don't have to go back and talk about and remember everything. So I think that is a huge relief for some people to realize that you don't have to in order to be free from it.
So working especially through the body with your traumas, and also on a conscious level, but also on an unconscious level. There has been an increased interest for working with the psychedelics, working with trauma healing and
Yes.
psychedelics, and because you are getting in contact with so many deeper layers in your brain and in your subconscious that has been affected by the trauma, and you can reach those states with a expanded.
Experts in the field believe that this is going to quite soon become accepted as a valid trauma healing method. Of course, when it's in the presence of an experienced therapist. And I know that you help to train other therapists as well in this, which is great because not a lot of people do that. What some of the results that you have noticed?
I don't work with these kind of treatment because it's not legal in Sweden
Okay.
yet. I train practitioners for the future, and also therapists who have clients that had used psychedelics by their own and then do the integration work with a therapist.
Yeah.
So because it's so there's so much valuable material in this sessions, in these psychedelic sessions.
No, Dr. Gabor Mate, he's also an advocate for it, and he noticed huge results, even after sometimes even one session, with lasting effects. From the research that they've done lately, it looks like the results that you get are way more significant than what you just get from, for instance, talk therapy or the more like the classic
SSRI
solutions.
Yeah, exactly.
Or like medication. I think it's important that people just don't go off on their own and start experimenting with psychedelics. That can be very damaging and traumatizing as well if it's not in a safe environment with an experienced person to help out. It can be, it can be very dangerous as well to play around with it by yourself.
You need to know your dose. The setting is very, very important.
Yes.
You need to have someone like a sitter or a guide or a facilitator or a therapist or a shaman, but someone who can hold your space, who can provide the things that you might need during this session. So it's very, very important to be mindful when you're using psychedelics on your own. Acknowledge the trauma bonds. You need to do the trauma healing work. You also need to do this individuation, like you have to rebuild yourself again. You cannot expect that you are going back to be the person that you were before, because that person was the person who was sucked in by the narcissist, and you don't want to be sucked in by another narcissist. So you need to So you need to look at your shadows, doing shadow work. Looking, really dive into your vulnerability, your needs, the longings, everything that is under the surface that you are not aware of, but the narcissist let you know what your vulnerabilities are. So we can learn quite much from these kind of relationships. So you need to build a new person, like do a new individuation. You need to solve the new attachment style. You need to work on that one as well. So it is quite many areas that you need to sort of figure out and work with, and that's why the healing from these kind of relationships they take so much. It takes longer to heal from these kind of relationships than from normal, and the grieving process is totally different. It's more like a complicated grief, which is a trauma response.
Thank you so much, Kia. It's been a pleasure having you here and talking with you.
Thank you. Nice having this conversation with you.